we don't have to be good at anything that we practice here at all. And I think this is why we're actually showing up. And at least that is why I am showing up, not to teach you necessarily, but for my own practice, to work with the things that we struggle with. If we were good at everything, we wouldn't need to practice it, we just simply do it. So I invite you to do what feels right for you, as always. And we will begin our practice lying down. So when you are ready, please find your way down onto your backs. We won't necessarily need any props, but if you like to use a block here and there, particularly to sit, please have that ready. If you don't have any blocks, no problem at all. Could be a couple of cushions or whatever else you enjoy sitting on. As we begin lying down, just simply lie down on your back. If you need a bolster under the knees, that is okay. If you prefer to just lie flat or step your feet down, that's fine too. So, lying down on the back, and having said that, sometimes even that is not possible, and it would be totally okay to change your position if something bothers you when lying on the back. Allowing yourself to come into a posture of stillness. And maybe bringing your awareness to the mind first today. Noticing what is happening in your mind. And as I mentioned, stress and anxiety, that could be quite on the surface for us all. But it could also be that you're getting into these states of stress and worries because we're resisting anything really. And I would love you to find out for now what you are resisting. What are you struggling with to accept? I'm not expecting any miracles and to let that go. It's not what we're after. It is more of the awareness of things that you might be resisting. You can keep this simple and just observe any physical sensations and tensions where you're resisting to relax the muscles, where you're tensing yourself up. And it might be that you're protecting an area here. It could be way bigger, and it could also be something off the mat. Let's take a deeper breath in through the nose and allow a sigh out of the mouth. Breathing in again. Another sigh. It could be noisy, it could be quiet. And do that one more time. And then return into the quiet that your body is currently in. Noticing if anything has changed in your resistance. It could sometimes be as simple as letting a sigh out during the day that helps you to relax a bit rather than to fight. And allowing your breath now to deepen, but keep it smooth. No stress in your breathing, no particular pattern, no counting of the breath, just breathing more deeply. as you are breathing here. If you've got something underneath your knees, or if your knees are currently bent, releasing, if possible, the legs out long, removing a bolster or whatever it is that you've got underneath your knees. Stepping your right foot onto the ground, but just to gently roll your body over onto its left-hand side. Take a deep stretch on this side. Maybe even pushing your hips forward, reaching the arms over the head, and then allow yourself to just flop onto your back when you're breathing out, allowing the whole body to ground again. Repeat that to the other side, now stepping the left foot onto the ground to roll onto the right hand side. And you might extend your arms overhead, push the hips a little bit forward, find a deep, full opening into the front. And again, on an out breath, just flopping down onto your back. As we notice that we are creating changes in the body, we will change this slightly. So once more, stepping the right foot onto the ground, rolling over onto the left-hand side. This time, keeping your arms forward. You can even bend your knees if you like, and stacking the knees one on top of the other. As you take a breath in, let's slide the right arm across the body and maybe even following the hand with the gaze into a twist. On the out breath, bring the hands together again, rolling to your left-hand side. Let's repeat that twice more. A breath in to let your arms slide across, maybe following it with the gaze as we're mobilizing further into the spine. And a breath out to bring the hands together again. Do that once more. Breath in to reach the arm across, maybe following it with the gaze. And out breath to bring the hands back together. Let's reach the arms once more over the head for a full body stretch, hips pushing forward, and then flopping back down onto your back. Stepping the left foot onto the ground as we're repeating to the other side. Roll over to your right hand side. Keep your arms in front, hands might be touching. You could bend your knees, stack the knees. And then on the in-breath, drawing your left arm across the chest, maybe following it with the gaze into a twist. And a breath out as you return, hands touching again. Repeating that in your own pace twice more. Your in-breath takes you into the twist. And the out-breath, you're rolling over to the side. Last round. And we will finish with the full body stretch on this side. Reach your arms out, stretch the hips forward, and then flop again onto your back. Bringing your knees now up into the chest, give them a little squeeze. Maybe extending legs and arms on a breath in, legs to the ceiling, arms overhead. And exhale again to hug the knees into the chest. And you might repeat that twice more. Big stretch into legs and arms on the in-breath. And tucking the knees into the chest on the out-breath. Last round. From where you can choose to rock forwards and backward to rise to sit, or you can roll over to your side. We're not even staying in a seated position. So once you're ready, coming onto your hands and your knees. We'll go through a warm-up routine to begin with. So we'll come into our all four stance and begin with the simple cat and cow movement. I like my wrists a little bit out and forward from underneath the shoulders, just a tiny bit. And then as you're breathing in, soften the elbows, lifting tail and gaze. And then breathing out, and you can do so out of nose or mouth, rounding into the back. Inhaling, soft elbows, lifting tail and gaze. And then breathing out, straighten the arms, deeply stretch into your back. As you continue that, you might play around with the different ways of breathing here through the nose as you're exhaling and out of the mouth to notice what feels best for you right now. Last round here. Keep the back rounded and stretch your hips back to your heels for the extended child's pose. I will ask you to slide along the mat from here, lifting the head and the chest for a cobra. And as if you are bringing a circle in on the out breath, stretching back, hips to your heels. So you're breathing in to come forward, one big wave of your body, and as you're exhaling, you're pushing back towards the heels. If this is too fast for you, you can add an extra breath or two to these movements and go a little bit more gentle. Breathing in to come forward and up, and exhaling to move backwards. Keeping that the same, but maybe an extra breath in between. See if you can do another 2 rounds, one more after this one, before you pausing in your extended child's pose. Walking your hands up towards your knees as you come to stand on the knees. I would bring the knees roughly underneath the hips, maybe a little bit further apart. Let's take a breath in, reaching the arms out and up. And you might choose a Charlie's Angels mudra here, index finger touching and the rest interlaced. And as you're breathing out, bending a little bit to the side. Inhale, come to center. And exhale, bend a bit to the other side. Now keep it sideways and avoiding to roll the top shoulder in. So inhale is your center and exhaling to the side. As you come to the right side, next let's pause here, release the mudra and dropping one arm down, give it a little bit of a shake and see if you can reach a bit further across and maybe even down to the floor. Then take a breath in, lift the arm and bending to the other side, releasing the other arm. Give that a little shake at first before you're stretching a little bit deeper. Rising back to center, and then we will release that all by bringing the feet forward, extending your legs out to the front. Now, as I said, there will be a fair bit of stronger movements. They are just there to release any stress. But if it causes stress in the body, it won't be good for you. So please adapt. If legs out long for a rowing movement doesn't suit your body, just bend your knees. I like to roll through the shoulders as well to loosen up in that area. So we begin with the backs of the hands touching. And as you're breathing in, stretch forward. And then turn around, make fists and roll back. Now you don't have to go as far as I'm going right now, but you could, inhaling to reach forward and exhaling to roll back. Now, as you are rolling back, please make sure that there's absolutely no pain in your back. Back off a little if there is. If there is any discomfort while leaning forward, bend your knees, and hopefully that releases that stress. Now let's inhale through the nose and out of the mouth. Coming in for 2 more. And then pausing in staff pose. So which means your hands are down by your side, you're sitting tall, legs are long at the front. We will twist a little. So I'd ask you to bring your hands over to one side and lean towards the floor. You don't have to touch it. Push yourself off from that side and then go across to the other and lean down there as well. Pushing back up and changing sides as you come across. Please continue that for a few times, leaning from one side to the other. Getting into a twisty movement. Last round now to these sides. I'm sorry, there's some messages coming up here that I need to get rid of. And then as you finish, you're coming back into the center. I'd ask you to really bend your knees deeply. And if you can reach, take a hold of your toes. Now, if you can't reach your toes, that's fine too. You might grab your legs somewhere. That's okay. Legs can be bent or straight. And I'd ask you to lift one leg and bring it back down. And then lift the other and bring it back down. This is not there to hold. This is to go for a little walk. So as we're warming up the body, preparing it for that is to come, we're taking a few interesting movements today, taken from a Japanese yoga therapy. Few more steps if you can have them. And then let's pause that. Let the legs slide out wide. I'd ask you to reach down one side as far as you can. Open the body to the side as you're lifting the arms and then reaching across to the other side. Open the body to reach it up and down to the other side. So again, it's not important how far can you reach. It is about the movement that helps us to prepare. And we will go for this last one, walking the hands to the center and rising back up to sit. I will ask you to bring your feet a little bit closer and roll all the way down onto your back. Basically returning into our starting position. So if your knees need to be bent, that's fine. Otherwise, legs can be out long. Let the whole body soften down. There's absolutely nothing to do for a few breaths, but to deepen your breathing. So we're keeping the body still as if we came back into relaxation, but we're allowing the breath to be deep. Now, if you need something to connect to while you're breathing, maybe your hands come to rest onto your abdomen. And see if you can breathe down into the hands to really let go of the belly on the in-breath. And you might slightly activate the lower abdominal muscles as you're breathing out. Now, if you're completely aware of pelvic floor movement, you could add that lightly on the exhalation. Try to let that go though as you're breathing in. Even in this area, we are now holding tension, or a lot of us do. as we're drawing in our belly to appear on the outside a certain way, or as we're holding that constant tension in the pelvic floor. Notice that it is nice to relax the belly. As you breathe in, it opens, all the muscles releasing, and as you're breathing out, you're tensing a bit. Finding the length of the breath that is suitable for you. You might even maintain the pace of breath that you came into now. Stepping your feet onto the floor. Bringing your hands behind the head. Now, if this is uncomfortable because you've got shoulder problems, you could leave your arms in a more relaxed way out to the side, but maybe bending the elbows to cactus arms. Otherwise, your head will be resting on your hands. Bringing your feet and knees to touch now, squeeze them together. Releasing particularly the lower back now. So important that the knees and the feet don't drift apart as the knees go to the right. Inhaling to the center and exhaling to the left. Unlike our first twists, which were more in the upper back, these ones are really more for the lower back. And I do hope you will feel that. Keeping knees and feet stacked and squeezing the knees together. So it's not important that the knees go to the ground. It's more important that we stick with the movement. I will ask you when you're next in balance to pause the movement. Maybe even to separate the feet and to allow for a couple of breaths just to feel what potentially has changed or happened in your body. Before you will extend your legs out long, I'm shuffling around just to make sure that my heels are still on the mat, and I recommend you do the same so that they don't tend to slide away. Separating the feet to slightly more than hip distance apart and turning your toes to face towards the ceiling. Now we come back to inhaling through the nose and out of the mouth as you're pushing your hips up into the air. Inhale, lower and soften the buttocks. Exhale to push up. So you're basically sticking your heels into the ground while you're pushing your hips up into the air. Aiming for 3 more if that is possible. Once you have completed these rounds, you can do with the legs what is most comfortable, but I also recommend to release the arms. And again, please pause, take a few breaths, and notice. It is to bring awareness to that is and occurs, whatever that means for you. We will next lift the arms up over the head. And we'll make fists with the hands to stimulate into the lungs as well. We're tucking the thumb into the palms of the hands and then wrapping all the other fingers around. So basically as if you're holding onto the thumb. Arms, if there's enough space, are fully extended over the head. If this is not working, maybe your arms could rather be down by the sides, but you could also have your fists. Now, if available, lengthen the legs out long. Otherwise, keep one foot on the ground and extend just one leg. We'll go for a walk as you're lifting one and lower it down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. And here it could come in handy that on the out breaths you're drawing on the lower abdominals and the pelvic floor. It's like a really stiff walk with straight legs. At the same time, of course, we're strengthening our core. So if possible, the arms are resting on the floor, over the head on the ground. If not, you might have the arms down by the sides instead. Going for another couple of steps. Before you release it all and finding maybe once again a resting pose. If there's, for example, a bit of stress in the shoulders, you might feel that as a side effect, that now that you're resting, the shoulders can soften again. But maybe your sensations are more dominant somewhere else. Our next movement is one of my favorites as it also stimulates the kidneys, an area that we need to keep quite warm in this time of year. So a lot of you will be familiar with this one. Stepping the feet down onto the ground and letting your knees fall out to the sides. Touching the soles of the feet together in the process. Now, if the feet can be quite close towards your body, that's fine. If this causes problem in hips or lower back, have the feet a bit further away. We will bring the hands back behind the head. Now, if you had interlaced your fingers, changing the way you're interlacing. If it is too strong, what I will be suggesting, please simply slide along the floor. And it might be nice to do so on the carpet if you've got one there, rather than a sticky mat. For the full expression of this movement, lifting the head and the shoulders off the floor, so the head is really resting in the hands and there's hardly any strain in the neck. Your gaze will remain upwards and your elbows open. And as you're exhaling now, squeezing your right elbow towards the right knee. And as you inhale, center again. Exhaling, left elbow to left knee. Inhale, center. Exhaling to the right. Inhaling, center, and exhaling to the left. I will ask you to continue that. Keep your gaze up, your chin lifted, so the neck is stress-free. And you're moving right into the sides, really a squeeze into these areas. Keep going for at least 3 more on each side. And please do rest if you need to. Don't take these recommendations as a have to. It is a suggestion. Once you have completed, I will ask you to remain in this shape. And we will repeat the lift of the hips, but in this shape now. So we'll breathe in through the nose. And while you breathe out of the mouth, pushing the hips up, squeezing into the buttocks. Inhale, relax that. If possible, aiming for 5 more. Now, I absolutely forgot to count if you did too. Just measure roughly the 5 and then bringing your knees up, releasing the hands, and ideally coming for a moment into Shavasana. meaning coming into a completely restful position, where the only thing you will do is stay with this moment, which also means to accept that the mind might wander, as now there's nothing really to do but just to be. Allowing the body time to integrate these movements that we have done so far. Allowing your legs to be maybe mat distance apart. The legs ideally are out long now, and you're pointing your toes to the ceiling so that the legs are switched on and your feet are in a position as if you would be standing on the floor. Your hands come to the lower abdomen, and a lot of you are familiar with this movement as well. Again, we breathe in through the nose and out of the mouth. And as you're exhaling, lifting the upper body, looking to the space between the feet. Inhaling through the nose as you're lying back. Exhaling out of the mouth to lift. Now, as you might continue this movement, if this is plenty for you, just focusing on your lower abdominal support. If you want a little bit extra, you will sit up. The hands, however, will stay on the lower belly, and I've just cheated a little bit as my left foot took off the ground. And we can just notice that we're cheating too. So option there is to sit up all the way. Inhaling, lying down. And the sitting up, keeping your hands not only on the lower belly, but also avoiding to flatter with the elbows. Aim for 3 more lifts or completely sitting up. Keep your arms in, hands down, and rather than compromising just to sit up, do a little bit less. Only the last one, I encourage you to sit up all the way. Now, once we come to sit, we will repeat a movement that we've already done while warming up. I will, however, encourage you to take it a little bit further if that is within your practice. So once more, legs in front, backs of the hands to touch. On a breath in to reach forward. On a breath out to roll back. So while you're making your fists, rotating the arms so that the fingers are pointing up towards the ceiling. To take it further, change it into a boat. My pace, not necessarily yours. You don't have to be this fast. You could go a fair bit slower. So keep rowing, moving forward and back. Maybe there's the boat in between. Couple more times before you might pause in your boat, and you could support hands down, you could step the feet down, or you could leave this all off the ground. That would be your medium-sized boat. Maybe you can stretch out all the way for a full boat. And you could curl yourself into a little ball or support with your hands as you're rolling back down onto your back. Now I will need a lot more space behind me as I've got the wall there. So please you make sure also that you've got space behind you, just in case you want to go there. We are going into a rolling plow movement. I will show you at first the different levels to where you could take this. So instead of a plow, could you simply lift your feet up into the air? A plow pose can impose a fair bit of stress onto the spine. So if your back isn't 100%, you might just simply rock back to legs up. You could also just lift the hips up if this works for you. Now we're getting a bit of momentum. As we rock up to sit, now you can't see my toes, but I will tap onto my toes. Tapping onto the tops of the legs is fine too. Then roll onto your back, lift, and rock back forward. So either it's just swinging the legs into the air, coming to sit, tapping the toes, or even reaching the feet behind the head. Now, if your feet actually touching the floor, even better. My morning body doesn't get me quite this far. See if you can rock forward and roll back a few more times. Stopping if you need to, if the spine is feeling sore, but otherwise going for another 2 full rounds. And we will finish and pause lying on the back and just allowing the legs to be up in the air. As you got to this point, it could be uncomfortable and you might pop your hands or fists underneath the buttocks and just allowing the flow to come downwards. Noticing how you're feeling, if you can notice tingling or flow of energy. Then hugging your knees into the chest. Give them a little squeeze, and if it feels good, you can rock a bit from side to side, stimulating the rest of your back. Now, same as when we began our practice, you could rock yourself back up to return onto all fours, or you can roll over onto your side and find your way back onto your hands and your knees. For this more or less balance, let's begin to extend the right leg back. Now, if the right leg is enough for you to move with, or your balance is already challenged, feel free to keep it like this. Otherwise, bring your right arm forward. And yes, that's the same side. So either just the leg or arm and leg, same side lifted. And then on your out breath, bringing arm and leg across to the other side. As you inhale, center it. Exhaling, moving it across. Inhaling, center. Exhaling, move it across. We will only do another 2 from here. Before you will release hand and knee back down and sit gently back to a supported child's pose. Allowing 2 full breaths just to notice, to become aware. Once you have completed these 2 breaths, we will repeat on the other side. So while you come back to all fours, extending the left leg back. And it is okay to just move with the leg. Otherwise, the left arm as well reaches forward. On the out breath, bring arm and leg across to the other side. Inhale, center it. Exhale, bring across. Inhale, center. Now keep going like this. There is length coming into this left side and a squeeze into the right. And yes, besides the space that we're creating here potentially for breathing, there's also again that kidney squeeze that we've practiced lying down before. Last one now. Then release. Hands, knees down to the ground. But now we will lean the body a little bit forward, coming into a kneeling plank. And on the out breath, releasing down onto the front of the body. Now you can choose to rest your chin down or your forehead, whatever feels right for you today. If that is available, let's extend the arms out and the legs. I would love you to take both further than usual. So a bit further than shoulder distance and a fair bit further than hip distance. So as if you were a starfish lying flat on the tummy. We will go for a walk here as well. As you take an in-breath, and as you're exhaling, lifting right arm and left leg. Breathe in and lie that back. Exhale, lift the other side. Inhale, lie that back. So it's unusual, we're breathing out to lift and we're inhaling to release. We're usually breathing in when lifting into back bend on purpose. We're reversing the breaths for the movement today. As we have more strength on the exhalation to lift. Keep moving in this way, legs wide apart, arms wide apart. Once more to each side until you are balanced. And you could then soften the arms. You could also touch your big toes together and let your head roll to one side for a brief rest. Again, bring awareness to your body and notice what it feels like. If you noticed here this is too much for your shoulders, arms could be by the sides but away from the body instead. It's not quite the full expression, but it's more important to take good care of yourself. I think you all know what is coming. As I invite you back into that same shape. Arms wide, legs wide. Breathing in. And as you're breathing out, lifting on both sides. Legs, arms. Inhale, release to the ground. Exhale, lifting up. Inhale, release to the ground. Aiming for at least 3 more. Once you have completed your 3 more, you will again soften the arms, maybe touch the big toes, let the heels roll out, and you might choose to turn the head in the other direction. And again, just noticing, bringing awareness. We'll go into another back bend. I know they're quite strong, they're creating heat, but they're also good to invite energy into the body. So once more, separate your feet, and they could be roughly about mat distance apart. This time we will tuck the toes under. You will engage into the legs so that the knees begin to lift, and your hands are now underneath the shoulders or by the sides of your ribs. We will keep the legs on the ground, and again the breath is reversed. On the exhalation, lift the head, the chest, the hands, and as you're breathing in, lower. exhaling to lift. Keep your legs engaged. Inhaling to lower. See if you can do a few more of those. Two more if available. And once completed, untuck the toes. Bring your legs back into hip distance. Push yourself up onto hands and knees and retreat into a child's pose of your choice. Pause here. Allow on purpose the back to round, the forehead to rest down, and be that onto stacked hands or fists. I invite you to deepen the breath while you're maintaining your child's pose, and to expand the breath into the back, into the sides. I assume that your body feels quite warm, and we will use this warmth now as you bring your hands next to your knees, tucking the toes under and lift the knees off the ground, retreating into a soft standing forward bend. Not quite what we're after, so use your lower abs as you're exhaling and curl up into standing. We will keep standing very, very simple today as we finish this type of physical practice in a balancing pose. So allowing yourself to stand on both of your feet. Maybe the shoulders need a few shrugs, and it's perfectly fine. Steadying your gaze. Now I've got this one branch out my window there that is right at eye level. That's always my gaze point. Maybe you've got something there as well that is not necessarily the screen. I will tell you where we go to. That is the tree pose, but it might be a different approach. So you could trust my words, I hope. As we're lifting the right knee up, there's a choice of tucking the knee into the chest while interlacing the hands across the shin. Placing then the right hand on the knee, your left arm might open to the side as you're opening your knee sideways. If you want a gentle tree, keep the knee open, place your foot somewhere below the knee, or reach for your ankle and place the foot right up to the inner thigh. The foot can be anywhere, just not against the knee itself. And once you found this, you could open both arms out to potentially have a better balance, but also becoming a bit stronger in the standing leg. If you feel your balance is quite good, you could touch the hands or lift the arms if that is something that you would like to do. Standing steady and feeling the strength, particularly in the standing leg, building a foundation. To release, bring the knee back forward, step the foot down and release your arms. We will change sides, bringing your left knee up. If you were hugging before, interlace the hands across the shin and hug the knee up. It's okay to do that here for the first time too. We will change now. Left hand on the knee, right arm to the side, and let's open the knee out to the side. See what feels right for you. Foot below the knee or reaching for the ankle and placing the foot to the inner thigh instead. I have a good amount of pressure here, foot and leg against each other. And you might choose again to start with your arms out wide, finding your stance, maintaining your drishti, your gaze point. And then if your balance is good, you could bring hands together or extend the arms. Hold it still and notice the strength again in the standing leg. Let's release that as you bring the knee forward, step the foot to the ground, release the arms and walk out a little bit through the legs. Before I take you back down into relaxation pose to feel, I would love to show you where in the end our meditation goes. There's no rush to get there once we are starting our meditation, but I prefer to show you now so that during this process you already know where this is going and you don't have to open your eyes and disturb your meditation practice. We've done this, I think, a couple of weeks ago as part of our flow. Where we are going is to extend the arms out to the sides with the palms of the hands facing downwards, so down towards the ground. Elbows are soft, so we're not extending and locking the energy line, we're keeping the shoulders, the elbows soft. And when you're breathing out, the palms will start to face each other and they will move in closer, almost to touch. But before that happens, you will cross the arms and touch the palms gently to the shoulders. So we'll do that again. The movement will be even slower once we come into the meditation. The arms extending, palms facing downwards. Elbows, shoulders soft. And as you're exhaling, bring the hands to face and closer towards each other as if you wanted to touch them. But then you're crossing the arms over and the hands come to the shoulders. If you get nothing about acceptance out of this practice, that's fine. But the gentle touch is something that might feel quite good. So we're releasing that, and I invite you to lie down on your back so we can come into relaxation first. Please do everything that makes you comfortable. Cushioning under the head, under the knees, a blanket over the top, maybe even an eye pillow. Whatever feels right for you, just making sure that you are comfy. Allowing yourself to then just be. I know that is the hardest part of the practice, hence the most important one. For complete relaxation, it's ideal to open the arms up if that works for you and the palms towards the ceiling. To allow the arms to be slightly away from the body and the legs a little bit apart so that you're not ideally touching, that you can just be there other than the touch towards the ground and towards your clothing and blanket. allowing yourself to observe how the body begins to relax and soften, how the breath becomes more gentle. If the mind wanders, practice acceptance. It is really more of an awareness that is required. If you have trouble today sitting upright and tall, you can do your meditation lying down as well. But if it is possible for you to sit upright and maybe even while leaning against the wall behind you, it would be a preferred position for this particular practice. If, however, you have to leave, we are going a little bit over time. That's fine too. In that case, I am wishing you a very happy day, rest of the week. But if you've got these extra minutes, come to sit if that works for you. Close the eyes again. You know where we are going. We're not quite engaging into the movement yet. I would ask you, however, to extend the arms out sideways, palms of the hands facing down towards the ground, and bending the elbows as well as softening through the shoulders. Now we'll hold here for a little while. If the arms become really, really heavy, just lowering the fingertips to the ground to support, but ideally keeping the arms out wide. Allow your awareness to begin this practice from a perception position of duality, separateness. As you have your hands extended to the left and right, extend awareness energy from your core to each hand separately. Experience them as right, then left, or even right versus left. Allow your awareness to sense and absorb the difference in awareness with each hand. Each hand represents the two polarities of yourself, right and left, dominant and non-dominant, north and south, male and female, idolized and devalued, yin and yang. Each hand has its own center of awareness and perception. Each hand has its own separate past history of interaction with the world. Each hand has learned different lessons from these interactions. We usually have one hand dominant that tends to be much stronger, faster, and more coordinated than the non-dominant hand. The dominant hand has received the majority of your attention and energy, and as a result, you have a better relationship with that hand. It responds faster and better to your conscious intention than your non-dominant hand. The non-dominant hand has been starved for attention and energy, and as a result is weaker, slower, and does not respond as immediately to conscious intent. In some ways, you could say the dominant hand is idolized while the non-dominant is devalued. Train your attention to notice these differences in the way that you extend your hands, the way in which you sense the energy and awareness, or lack of energy and awareness in your hands. How strong, connected, and coordinated they feel. That will be the awareness on the in-breath. And as you now pull your hands together, your attention, a focus on each hand separately and then together, extending energy and awareness from your core to both hands simultaneously. What do you notice? Now I invite you to keep moving in the way we practiced before, only now that your awareness goes with the movement as well. So arms out wide, palms down as you breathe in, and crossing and moving towards, then crossing on the breath out. So as you notice the hands separate and then the awareness of both hands simultaneously, what do you notice? Can you bring to sense the right, the energy and awareness with the left and the energy and awareness? Even as your palms approach each other, notice how heat, pressure, and energy flow out. And as the hands cross each other in the moment, then the right becoming the left becoming the right. Can you sense the energy awareness exchange? Can you imagine all of the experiences that have been stored in the right side of your brain and body, flowing out of your right palm and into your left simultaneously, as all of the experiences that have been stored in the left side of your brain and body flow into your right palm? I am inviting you to hold the arms crossed when you get there next. This practice is your body-mind's natural way to integrate and synthesize the opposing, conflicting, dualistic nature of thinking and perceiving that is so accepted in our society that silently takes root in your body, even your muscle memory. Acceptance is awareness. Acceptance is also essential for transformation. You might like to keep the hands as they are, bringing awareness back into the heart space. If you prefer, you could bring the hands into Anjali Mudra, palms touching in front of the chest instead. Accepting ourselves just as we are, knowing that we can bring in change with awareness and acceptance. And with that, accepting everyone else just as they are. So we lightly bow to each other. Namaste.